asks on X, I'd be interested in Reform's approach to the health service. Obviously, a contentious area with Labour waiting to attack any type of reform as privatising the NHS. Dead right, Rob. Yeah, so look, Reform's position as regards healthcare reform has definitely evolved since the return of Nigel Farage. I mean, I'm a big admirer of Richard Tice, but I think he was playing a little bit fast and loose, a little bit too populist with some of the kind of pre-election pledges in 2023 around, I think, sort of tax write-offs of student loans and things like that. I think it was tax exemptions and possibly student loan write-offs for doctors and nurses, various kind of love the NHS sort of policies. I think we need to be realistic. I think social attitudes on the NHS are changing very rapidly as the service creaks and gets worse. I think we're reaching the point where we can start to have a grown-up conversation. I hate that term grown-up, but actually it applies here. I hate when politicians at the side use the term we're the adults in the room or the grown-ups. But in this particular case, I will use it. I think we're, no longer going to be infantilized in the debate on healthcare reform as we were, held back by these very sort of childish NHS, I love the NHS lapel wearing brigade on the centre right, like Jeremy Hunt. I think things have moved on. I think people are harder because they have to be and are thinking more seriously. Look, I don't worship at the feet of the NHS like some people. I think it's some aspects of it are fantastic, some aspects of it aren't. I think it's the only healthcare in the world apart from North Korea and Cuba where it's a fully state operated primary healthcare system, completely sort of state, taxpayer sort of funded. And almost every other system in the world is a mixed economy model. Now, obviously, we do have private healthcare provision, but it's pretty small by international standards. I like where reform is going with its emphasis on tax credits, I believe, for tax break for using private healthcare. I think that beyond that, Farage's idea of social insurance, of kind of moving to a mixed model, whereby it will still be free at the point of need, particularly A&E for those in serious condition, and that you will not be paying tens of thousands if your child or your grandmother is very sick and needs an operation. That won't happen. But whereby you won't be personally out of pocket, but whereby we kind of move to a more mixed payer model, whereby through employment and also through a sort of form of social insurance for those unemployed or retired, we move to a mixed payer model. I would be open to that. But the thing for me as well is we need to think very differently about the NHS workforce. We need to think about how reducing reliance, and it's not fair on the countries we're taking it from. We take huge number of really talented people from developing world countries and we leave their healthcare systems short in order to staff hours up when we're not training enough of our own people to be nurses and doctors. We turn away really well qualified school leavers who've got the intelligence to be doctors. We turn them away in droves. And then we end up recruiting. We don't even recruit that. We don't even educate that many international students. We also cap those numbers because of this bizarre formula that we've got for whereby it costs a huge amount in the UK to train a doctor, much more than many other countries. So there's just so much we could do better. The NHS workforce needs to be looked at. We need to really get productivity moving. I would also say the other thing that I would love reform to do, if it were up to me, is ban the BMA and the Royal College of Nursing and others from engaging in strikes. I think that's a really long overdue reform. If you're telling me that the NHS is literally a life and death service and it's the lifeblood of this country and it's critical national infrastructure and all of that, then why on earth do you think it's okay to strike? We do not allow policemen and we do not allow soldiers to strike. Why are we allowing doctors and nurses? The same policies that apply to police officers and to soldiers and to other members of the military branches should apply to those who work in the NHS, particularly on the clinical side. We just need to think differently. We need to be much more robust. We need to just be harder edged in the negotiations on pay and pensions. We've been a soft touch for many, many years, and that's got to change. But we also, the other thing I would just say on the NHS is we need to be better at, rolling out new technologies, embedding them. We need to get the training infrastructure right for adoption of new treatments and technologies. And we need to also remember the importance of choice and voice in the NHS. That's gone neglected for too long. I think, to be fair, under Tony Blair, Alan Milburn, John Reid, we really were making some strides forward in terms of utilising competition to bring waiting times down in the NHS. That all got abandoned under Gordon Brown and then David Cameron. There was a brief experiment under Andrew Lansley that didn't end well. The Tories panicked at the first sign of public unease about the reforms whipped up by the media, and sort of ran in the other direction and have become ever more centralised in their approach. And it's just so not healthy to kind of not utilise private sector expertise to kind of bring waiting times down. So I'm really for using choice in the system, offering people the opportunity to have an operation faster in another part of the same region or in another region if it can be done. I'm open to using independent sector treatment centres. We just need to be novel. We just need to be hidebound by this, free at the point of need, everything done by good old NHS. We need to be much more with it, much more awake and alive to the reality we face, and we also just, have to think about social care differently. And, I could talk about that at great length, but I'll leave it for now. But just say this, I think the opening is there, and I think reform needs to be bold and lead a conversation on NHS reform and moving to a more mixed economy approach, whereby we will still protect those who do not have the means. We will still ensure healthcare is free at the point of need for the society at large, but that we will find ways to economically account for it in a different way. So yeah, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying the channel. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for the subscribes that I've had to date and the engagement. Let's keep it going. Really appreciate it. Thank you.